for joining me for the Plant Yourself podcast. I'm your host, Howie Jacobson. So today I reconnect with my buddy, my business partner, my running inspiration, Josh LaJaunie. We haven't seen each other since March, and it's been a crazy year for everyone, but there's a lot of things that we were planning to work on, a lot of retreats, in-person stuff that obviously had to go on the back burner. And we've been chatting a lot, but we haven't recorded for public consumption any of our conversations. I've been doing a lot of really interesting podcast interviews that Josh has been listening to and responding to. He's been sending me lots of stuff to read and watch and listen to myself. So we thought it was time to just have another jam session. And in this conversation, we talk about how Josh has kept from putting on, 50 or 100 pandemic pounds, how he decides what to listen to in a world full of conspiracy theory and BS, and how to navigate life. How do we talk to ourselves, think about our futures in a world where it's so damn easy to just say, I just need to take care of myself right now with some, delicious, comforting, unhealthy food, and I'll worry about tomorrow when tomorrow comes. For context, we recorded this on November 11th, so a little over a week after the presidential election, but not when we had a definitive outcome yet. So I hope you enjoy this conversation. Let us know what you think. And without further ado, Josh LaJaunie, welcome back to Plant Yourself.
Hey, what's up, Howie? Thanks for having me, buddy.
Oh, always. It's been a long time.
It has been. It's been a wild year.
Yeah. So, what's the year been like for you? We haven't recorded anything sort of free form in a long time. Last time we saw each other was beginning of March, and we probably shouldn't have. We probably should have canceled that particular thing.
Yeah.
But
we held our own little potential mini spreader.
Yeah. New Orleans 2 weeks after Mardi Gras. What could go wrong?
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, let's just catch up. What's this year been for you? Obviously for a lot of people, it's been hard. It's been separating and frustrating, and what have you made of it?
Yeah, it's weird because my life and how hard I've been working towards taking the steps to move away professionally from what I've done for the last 20 years of my life in the way of being a sewer pump operator and all of that stuff. And so in 2020 in one way was really awesome for me because I've been working on selling that business for a long time, and it finally came to fruition and happened almost right exactly at the same time as COVID started, and so it was really weird. It's been frustrating because the whole point of moving out of what I was doing professionally was to move into what I had been doing, which is the speaking and the traveling, and the juices were all flowing and everything seemed to be pointed in a direction. And here I am, like this seemingly positive thing happened, but wow, everything else has been punched in the gut. And now there's this big, huge question mark kind of in my immediate future anyway, like what's going on? What's happening? And on top of all of that, everybody's stuck at home, and we going through COVID, and my wife is administrator at an assisted living facility with elderly people. So our house has just been really very much disrupted. Our household has been very much disrupted. Our lives have not been the same during this pandemic. Yeah, I lost some friends and tenants to COVID, and all of that. So it's been a really crazy up and down year. It's been good and also bad. And what I was going to say is also that what my wife does for a living, and she's an administrator at an assisted living facility. So our household has really been disrupted, because it's so important that she stays secluded and not potentially infected, so she can continue to do what she does and keep COVID out of her building. And so it's just been a really rough year in the household and in the, just, it's been a rough year to get traction on being generally sort of like upbeat and happy for many, many, many different reasons. But in the midst of all of that, last summer you and I had gone to North Carolina, and I met Corinne Sutton, and so and then I got on his program around that in the spring. Well, actually in the beginning of the year, I kind of petered out the first time, and then I did it again in the spring. And so what I'm getting at is, like, I was really frustrated, but I just felt this drive to let me do something with my body physically, since I can't feel like I don't feel good enough to run like I was running before. Let me do something different. And I just started doing strength training and getting into his program and doing some other things to help with strength. And, I've been able to physically claw myself back to where I'm running pretty strong again. I'm pretty happy about where I am, about my trajectory. I'm aiming at, how important the poster is at the Crescent City Classic for me, buddy. And I was able to this weekend run a 5K that guaranteed me a seated bib, so I can have a good shot at getting in that top 500 come April. Hopefully, if we run that race, I'm pretending as if I'm going on with life as if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we'll see, And so that's all I can do is do the thing that helped me in the moment, right? And not focus on all the whirlwind.
So there's a lot I want to talk to you about, but that immediately brings up some questions for me, because you and I have seen so many people, we've seen so many memes where, I saw one last week when the election was still in doubt, and neither candidate had 270, and the joke was, the way I'm stress eating, I'm going to get to 270 before either of them does. Right. And we're so many people like, oh, well, I saw another one from the Reductress. It said, like a meme. It said, doctor advises eat whatever the fuck you want to get through this week.
I thought that was beautiful. I saw that too. Yeah,
right. And we've heard from many people this is my food, my exercise. I was just trying to take care of myself on the sort of basic physical and psychological level because of all the stress of the election and the pandemic and conspiracy theories, and I understand that. And I'm wondering how that played out in your life. Did you go there at some point? Were there impulses? Were you I'm doubling down on fitness? How did that all play out in your mind and in your actions?
I just tried to break it down, and I'm pretty comfortable with how, I've been processing this information for the last 4 years of my life, along with my running. I was telling somebody today, I'm pretty firm in what I've already learned about the situation, that politically or whatever. And so the fact that the election this year is what it is, this weird culmination or crescendo of cluster bomb that 2020 has been so far, that didn't really surprise me too much. I have let myself delve into it and dig down because I am passionate about some things, and I find some absurdity in the way things are, and some things that I find super absurd. I'm just I gotta say something, but yes, it can drag you down and really bog up your mind if you're not careful, and especially if you don't feel like there's any truth out there, which is that's the common theme. It's not that people necessarily are believing the crazy conspiracy theories. It's that the bigger problem to me as a person who cares is the people who are throwing their hands up going, well, you don't know what to believe. You got all these people saying this and all these people. Yeah, but half of the people are saying the world is flat. So let's ignore that half. That's not really half. They don't count, it's very it's been a very, very frustrating thing, and what I'm realizing is I've just applied the same rubric, the same pattern that I used when I was figuring out my nutrition, how to eat, and I had to be objective, and I had to make some really hard decisions about my food that was going to set me apart from my family, and set me apart from my friends, and set me apart from my Cajun heritage and culture. Like not doing crawfish and not going speckled trout fishing and having big fish fries. And, those were hard decisions, but pragmatically, like what I learned, they were necessary if I wanted to definitely get to that place that I wanted to get to. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be fit. I wanted to be not fat. And accidentally that processing capacity has helped me really sort of, although some may argue to the contrary, has really sort of helped me stay even keeled throughout this very, very volatile, and frustrating and disappointing at times American experience that we're having right now,
What's the relationship between, because I work with a lot of people who they haven't stopped believing in whole food plant-based eating, and they haven't stopped believing in exercise, but they're like, yeah, I can't do it. It's too much. The world is too much right now. It's like, that recurring joke in the movie Airplane, where it's like, I guess I picked the wrong week.
Wrong. Stop sniffing glue.
Yeah, it's like people. How did your pragmatism, which I think it's related, but I think it's a different issue, like knowing what to believe, right, or how to make decisions, not even belief. It's like how to evaluate evidence. There's no belief involved after a certain point. Mm-hmm. But like your confidence in your ability to evaluate evidence, how did that buffer when things were just so bad? Like, in the old days, you would have smashed 3 po' boys or
right,
a gallon of milk and a box of Little Debbie's.
I think honestly, Howie, having been back to school, it really helped me learn how to harness the power of the internet rather than be overwhelmed by the power of the internet. And so I hear all of these disparate claims and these wild theories, and you think racism is a thing, but it ain't a thing because here's this stat. Well, I know how to drill down on that stat that they cite, and then eventually find the very obvious out of context bullshit way they tried to use it, right? And so I can process, and that's how it keeps me from going crazy. And people my age, a lot of people my age, I don't think really get down in the world of in YouTube and Google in a productive way. I think they get pulled around rather than go digging around,
But again, I'm not being clear on my question. Like, does that help you? Like, does that surety that you've tested? Like, you're not. There's people who they've read all the books, right? Like that was me in 2005. I read the China study, and I'm like, oh, Colin Campbell is so smart. This makes so much sense. But I really didn't. Like I hadn't tested it for myself and really believed it, and there were cracks in my belief. And then another guru came along, and I thought, well, that's a really well written book too. Like it was all House of Cards because I hadn't leaned on anything. You can't know if you trust someone until you actually are in a position where they can let you down. So being in that position with your own ability to recognize truth, did that affect your ability to not self-indulge? Or how did you manage to not put on 50 or 100 pounds during let me just ask it that simply.
Because I stopped at 20. Right? Like there was definite slippage, Howie. But there was also, and there has been several moments of slippage and recovery. My frequency with which I recover now is just different than it has been. And especially when I feel like I'm slipping because of emotional things, because of because of things that are out of my control, like politics and the world and all of that stuff. When I start to feel like slippage because of that, that feels weak to me. Oh, and I need to do something about it, right? And that's the difference between now and then is, yeah, you just smashed you smashed a sleeve of Oreos. Damn, that's not what I'm doing right now, you know? And I just, the urgency with which I recover from those instances in my life has evolved over time. That's the big difference in my life. It's not that it's a never thing. It's not that it don't happen. It's just that it don't happen more often than it does happen, because I arrest the behavior earlier than I ever have before in my life. And I arrest the behavior earlier because I like the way I feel physically right now. I like this body. I like what I'm going to be like. I like the communication and community that the activity of running brings me. And so this vessel, this body, helps me stay plugged into that ether of what I have found to be very, good connections. And so there's just this multitude of reasons why I arrest the behavior sooner, but I do.
So how do you arrest it? Because there's a lot of people who try to arrest that behavior by, oh, bad Josh, I can't believe you did that again. Stop that. Like what's your internal dialogue around arresting the behavior?
This isn't what we're doing. What the fuck you doing? Oh, sorry. But literally that's what I say. And I talk to myself like I talk to another human being. Like, what the fuck are you doing, player? That's not what we're doing right now. You know this. Throw the rest of that bag of chips in the garbage can right now. Right? And you do that, and then you might slip again, and then you fight, and then you go on a tear for 30, 40 days where you're doing great. And then you hit another struggle point. The struggle point doesn't mean we have to go and put 100 pounds on. It could just mean we slow down the progress for a little while. That's a difference. And that's just been what my life has been like. It's like, oh, okay, I'm struggling, but I just have a different, I don't know how to explain it well enough. I don't guess. The urgency with which I want to arrest that behavior has evolved over time. And no joke about it, being a largely whole food plant-based eater and a 100% vegan eater, I have found that in slip-up moments, in slip-up eras, little mini eras, little periods of time, you put on weight a lot slower than when you're doing it with bacon cheeseburgers and milkshakes and French fries and potato chips and cookies and pies and cakes and brisket and whiskey and beer, right? And so those two things combined, I think, compound for me to have sustained it. It's not like I have been, a choir boy eating wise all these years. It's just I understand more things. I'm more pragmatic. I get it now. And I'm very serious about avoiding the caloric density of animal products, and that all goes hand in hand with naturally attainable quantities. That all goes hand in hand with the logic, to me, and my desire to find simple solutions.
Yeah. So one thing I heard, and like, hey, we don't do that anymore. What the fuck you doing? Like, there are people who could hear that and feel like whatever they're talking to, the part that they're addressing is like less than. But the way you're saying it, you're actually evoking your better self. You're saying, we don't do this. You're better than this.
Yeah, we both are there forever. The good me and the bad me inside of me are there. We're not going to get rid of each other. We got to work together. And we get the best out of life if we achieve things with the good and the bad part of us. And the more that we both succeed, the more each the good and the bad can have a little bit more of their way. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. And so, yeah, I do have those moments where I say, hey, what the fuck you doing, bro? But I also have those moments like I had Sunday when I was in the last mile of my 5K and I knew I was going to earn my bib, and I'm pounding myself on my chest and I'm about to cry, screaming as I run through Audubon Park saying, you a bad motherfucker, Josh. You bad, baby.
Uh-huh.
Right? And that's maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm crazy. I scared the shit out of the old man that I didn't know was up ahead of me because it was dark. And I apologized to him, but I seriously have that relationship kind of with the me's inside of me, you know, and the ones that need their hand slapped, they get their hand slapped. Doesn't keep them from reaching, you know?
Right. So there's a way in which you have completely become like ahistorical. Like, you know, for a lot of people, like they look at their lives and the patterns and they go, oh, you know, I've always binged, or I used to lose 100 pounds all the time, but I'd gain it back. And it's like when you slip up, that no longer has any significance for you in terms of what it means for your future, sounds like.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not predictive anymore. It's not indicative of something bigger than what it is.
And I don't feel precarious, you know, anymore. My life is, I don't know how to explain it well. I wish I could impart it to people.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it seems like before I kept asking you, you know, about like resisting temptation, and you kept talking about processing, like knowing things. And it feels like you've hit upon a connection that maybe I haven't made in terms of like, I guess it's hard to feel precarious when you are if you're in touch with reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, like you just sent me this this article about, you know, why people believe lies that are repeated over and over again, and we were talking earlier about like the misinformation out there is huge, and when like it seems like we're much more vulnerable to it when we are scared, stressed out, when we don't feel like we you know, everybody sort of feels precarious these days. That's on some level, whether it's, you know, your individual health, your family, will you have a job? Is there going to be toilet paper in the stores next month? Is there going to be a civil war? Is there going to be a peaceful transition of power? Right. Like, where can, you know, we talk a lot about naturally attainable quantities. We were talking earlier about naturally attainable quantities of truth versus bullshit. Like where do you go for truth these days? And you can answer that in like whatever level speaks to you.
So just to be very specific, like I have news outlets that I trust more than the ones with all the bells and whistles, and so I that's where I go. I go to places like, you know, just to be very specific, like organizations like PBS or, you know, just like that type of stuff for just news and being very pragmatic and trying to find unadulterated sort of just a recounting of events. That way, then I go down and drill down in things that excite me or make me think, wait, what was that? And then I can go personally create my own opinion. And then if I watch other opinion pieces, my opinion doesn't get skewed. I'm just going, oh, they think that way too, or they think differently. Why do they think differently than what I thought when I read that? Like, that's just how I process, you know? And I don't know if that's what you were asking and what you're trying to get at, but that's
well, I think there's lots of different. I mean, it feels like truth truth feels relative, like from alternative facts to, right? Like, I think I'm a person who is intelligent and well read, and I've been taught how to evaluate sources. And yet, like, I'm sitting on a chair that I can feel with my ass, but I don't actually know what happened in the Pennsylvania election, right? Like, there's ways in which I have to rely on sources, and there's other people who are watching other media, listening to other sources, and they'll tell you exactly why you've been brainwashed and you're a sheeple.
Exactly. Right. Well, I like to find, there is, it's like people think that they're looking for every, like black and white, and there is no black and white. I love the idea that the Shirzais talked about on your podcast one time about how, it's not about finding, an absolute, like, consensus or whatever. It's about, it's about a consensus. It's not about finding, the definite truth, but it's about finding an aggregate, and going, oh, this is most likely because of this, right? And I don't know how to say it, but that's how I try to process it. I don't try to think of it as I'm finding the absolute gospel. It's just like, okay, this, and this all line up. And it seems like this person is full of shit. I'm going to go with that. And that's just, but going with it is like, and that's just how, I don't know. It keeps, that's just how I process.
Yeah. I'm listening for like a strategy, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. Right. It's
like one thing is like, I always want to be someone who questions my biases. Mm-hmm. Right. Like where am I, where do I have blind spots? And in the past I could do that by like reading, the National Review or very sort of middle of the road things. But it feels like alternative media. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how this conversation might help anybody. It feels like there's not, when I grew up, there was like Democrats and Republicans, and they had different ideas. And like probably the right answer was somewhere in the middle. That's kind of how like, And now it feels very different in terms of like there's no reality that I don't there's no cost for me in denying reality.
No. You can just start saying a thing right now. We can make a thing up and just start saying it, and just start pumping it, and pumping it. And eventually people, you heard about that thing? I don't know if it's true, but you never know these days. And the fact that like I've seen that like that pattern be laid out like in the documentary Get Me Roger Stone. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's like oh, that's an active thing that they've been consciously doing. Just throw enough shit against the wall to confuse people, And I don't want to fall victim to that. I honestly have seen that in my immediate family my entire life. That's the politics and that's how I grew up. You know how I grew up, and just like we were big and fat and not athletic and I wanted to change that. Like also comes with it is like, oh, all these other things we were thinking, let me reassess that too, and it's like, wow, I'll be damned, boy, yeah, no, this just ain't right. It ain't right to do it this way. It just ain't right. And the reason is, and there's a surrender, like, oh, my brain gets so, it's like a unexplainable sort of explosion in my brain when I'm trying to talk about these things, because there's so many things at one time I want to try to say. But when it gets complicated, like it inevitably does, there's a certain surrender that I use. And we talk about the surrender experiment often with the people that we've worked with over the years, and how important that book was for me. A good friend of mine, a runner, shocker, ultra runner, shocker, turned me on to this book about surrender. And that word can be used in so many ways. In running, I use it to surrender to the pain in the moment, because it's temporary. And there's a certain surrender to the noise and to the fear of not being able to know everything. And we're just not going to be able to know everything without a shadow of a doubt. That's not how it works. And so to be able to surrender to that willful confusion a little bit, but inside of that, do the best job you can at being objective and pragmatic, I'm good with that. I'm good with that as an effort in my life.
That's interesting, because when I think about, the wacky conspiracy theories that have sadly infected, the natural health and vegan communities as well.
Oh, God.
There is the thing that maybe separates it is the need for 100%. Right? If you can tolerate some doubt, you're probably closer to the truth than if you demand 100% definite positivity you're absolutely 100% right.
Yeah.
Right? Because the truth tends to be complex and nuanced,
yes.
And lies tend to be much simpler.
Very simple. And in that article I sent you, that was the thing, is the brain, our evolution, we are naturally drawn to the easier answer. It's that energy conservation thing. And so when the easier answer is presented, you automatically give it default. You put more stock in it than you should automatically. Just like that calorically dense food, you're drawn to it because it's a bunch of calories for a little bit of effort. And it's the same dynamic with misinformation and disinformation. Because they give you answers that they know you want to hear already. And so when you already have the truth, you dismiss everything else. It's all bullshit. Yes. I'm telling you, Howie, there's so many things that in my nutritional education in my life that is just bing, bing, complete echo in my political evolution in my life. I know that's going to rub people the wrong way that know me, but I don't care. I'm sorry. I'm following my heart. I'm following my soul. I'm following Ishmael. That's the other thing. This surrender, this oneness, this ability or desire to be part of a universe, right? And it draws me, right? And it pulls me, and that it makes things complicated, no doubt, but at least it gives me a direction, a desired direction. And that allows me to process things against, say, the Ishmael standard in my own mind. How does this policy affect that, being a lever? And not to get too specific into a piece of literature we haven't introduced or talked about, but you know what I'm talking about.
Right. Well, let's introduce it briefly. It's a book by Daniel Quinn called Ishmael. I think he wrote a couple follow-ups. It's basically a look at human civilization from the perspective of a sentient gorilla.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a way to look at it was a very clever plot device to allow us to look at ourselves in the third person as opposed to from within our culture.
Yeah, it was a beautiful trick, and not unlike the trick they used in Okja. And to me, it was very similar in the movie Okja, which was the computer generated hippo looking creature that they were using basically like cattle. It disconnected. It was just a really cool device, right? But I really loved the gorilla, and his perspective on it, and telling human history back to the human being from this perspective of what was essentially the universe, of nature, of what is. Like, we are of nature. We are a part, and I think it's such a small. It seems like such a small thing, but so much of like the Christian world that I grew up in would be aghast at suggesting that we are animals just like squirrels and rabbits. We are special. And I don't feel that way, right? We are just like, who the fuck are you to think that of all of these beautiful creatures, we have been bestowed this whole thing? It's for us? And me questioning that as some sort of like some level of blasphemy, that blows my mind.
Yeah. Right. Well, I don't know if you listened to my interview with Tyson Yunkaporta, who wrote Sand Talk.
Yeah, I didn't listen to all of it yet, but yes, that is amazing. I did listen to his book. It was amazing. Right.
Like the idea, like the cardinal sin is narcissism, is thinking that you're better than something and something's worse than you. Or you're better than someone and someone's worse than you. And you can, he indicted pretty much all of the last 10,000 years of progress.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what if we're not trying to build, a tower to the heavens? What if we're just trying to live on this earth in a sustainable way? Like, to me, that's become my litmus test for truth. Like, if this is true, can the human experiment continue indefinitely, or is it, as he calls it, a self-terminating algorithm?
Yeah.
Right? Like oil, obviously, you come from oil and gas land, right? That's the economy. Yep. Like, right. Okay, if oil and gas are necessary, like, isn't that self-limiting? Isn't that a self-terminating algorithm, because it's going to run out, whether it's in 10 years or 50 years or 500 years, doesn't really matter.
Right.
Right. Like, so where can we find sustainable ways of living that enhance our environment rather than degrade it?
Right. And the money that oil brings gets in the way of that messaging even getting a toe in the door. Because it's an all or nothing proposition, it seems, Like, it can't even, like, it's like, we have to, it's like, it's not like we're going to switch it off tomorrow. So everybody that works in the oil field, they don't even want to hear about windmills and solar panels or alternative ways, because alternative means not what we do. And what we do is this. So forget it all. And instead of like talking about why we should put efforts into this, and hey, guess what? That's going to have jobs there too. Just because you don't see them in your imagination and you can't think about them and know what they look like, and that doesn't mean that it's not a potentiality, But I get it. Everybody's, a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush. And so everybody's latched on to what they already know.
Right. And it feels like the difference between like a lot of people we work with are very unhappy with the results they're getting in terms of their health and their weight and their mood and their energy. And so they come to us, and as a coach, my main job is to show them that how to be flexible, because they've been doing a thing to try to solve this for years or decades. And they haven't succeeded, but they keep trying the same small group of things that don't work, or coming at it with the same failed mindset.
Right, and they think they just haven't executed it perfectly yet, and as soon as they do execute it perfectly, they'll have it figured out, and we need to help them figure out how to execute it perfectly. And that's not how it's going to go. I tell people all the time, you gotta be willing to take a seat. As soon as you gotta be, yeah.
Yeah. So and so this idea of flexibility, like I can have different responses. I don't have to keep doing the same dumb shit that hasn't worked. But I think as a civilization, it's taking, like, the feedback isn't so quick and direct. Like, and it's not that direct for people either. Like every time you ate, a Little Debbie sleeve, you got hit in the head, you'd quickly learn not to do it. But the problem is you get an immediate positive feeling, and the negative only comes, minutes, hours, days, months, years later.
And in a cumulative way, like if you ate a whole bag of Little Debbie zebra cakes, and your man boobs popped out to little A cups immediately, you would be like, no more of those. Stop that. But it takes years of you secretly doing that, and you realize one day, oh shit, I got tits. It accumulates. Like, it would be better if they just popped out on you. As soon as you gorged on pizza, it's like, oh man, I got these big boobs. More immediate.
Yeah, and the wisdom there is, like, for me to wait until my A cups pop out. At that point, it's kind of too late, and there's plenty of evidence that I could have looked at that eating those cakes wasn't a good idea. Let me ask you about something else. Maybe, if you want to talk about it or not. We've been talking quite a bit about, like, ways in which your people look to you to kind of, I don't know if it's to solve their problems or to inspire them. It seems like it's raining hard now. You've had a lot of experiences where you feel like the marketing of your story, from 420 pounds to the cover of Runner's World, that marketing has actually attracted people who aren't able or willing to do the work, or has kind of gotten in the way of people taking the reins of their own lives?
Yeah. It's been a very weird year for me in that realm as well. I feel like I put myself out there, which it all felt right, I mean, and at the same time, like, I feel like I've almost, like, I don't know, Howie. I don't even know how to put words to it. It's just that I've gotten very, I hate to say it, but almost jaded with the idea of being an inspiration for people, because they come to me with all of these questions that you already know the answer to. Like, you just want, what you need to do to lose weight. The thing you know already. I don't understand. And me trying to figure out why are you engaging? Why you keep asking the questions when you don't do the thing? Or why, like, me trying to figure out and put rationale to why all these people, and, like, have all of these questions, and yet it feels like so little of so few actually get traction doing anything, and it's like, am I really helping them at all? Would it be, I don't know. I don't know if me, going through the DMs and doing voice memos to people and spending all of that time is helping them or hampering them for feeling like that they got an answer from someone and that answer didn't work either. Dang. Like, I don't, it's been a very confusing part of my life. And I feel like a lot of the confusion is because it's been 100% online this year instead of me being able to reset my mind, and about that whole dynamic, in person with people when we go to places and speak in person, and I get to shake hands and hear people's story and see their eyes tear up and they see my eyes tear up, and those types of things matter. And then I can go back to the online world with a renewed sense of like compassion, whereas I start to feel alone, and like I feel like I'm doing my own struggle, and hear all these people asking me questions about their struggle, and it's like, hey, bro, we all fucking struggling here. Go struggle, fight, show me some progress. Don't ask me questions. Stop, but it ain't. I don't know where to put that energy. It gets very frustrating because I feel like I've put myself out there as a person who's like, committed himself to being a voice or being a resource. And I've just been, Howie, I've been twisting a little bit on that part of my life.
Yeah, and it's, I think it's related to the idea of marketing. Like if you went to a marketing professional and said, hey, here's who I am, here's what I want to do, they would tell you to do exactly what we did on the cover of Sick to Fit. Right. How
Yep.
I went from 420 pounds to the cover of Runner's World, US, Good Morning America, and what was the other one? The Today Show.
US, yeah. The Today Show.
Like that's what we're taught, to show people, here's this amazing thing. And both of us have been wondering, like, is there something about that in some sort of context that while it's absolutely true and while it gets people's attention, does it somehow like short circuit some part of the brain? Like is this our equivalent of giving people Oreos?
Yeah. It's like inspiration Oreos or something. It's like motivation cookies, instead of something that you can sustain, or something that's why I try to point them away from me all the time. And it feels like people feel like, I feel like people think I'm being like all shucks about stuff. Like when they go, oh, you're such an inspiration, or, oh, you really, if it wouldn't have been for you, X, Y, Z. And it's like, no, I need you to understand that you are the difference. That like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, Howie. That it gets. I feel almost like a lot of people. I don't know. Keep me close as like I don't understand why. I don't understand the dynamics behind it. But yeah, I forgot what we were even talking about, because it's such a honestly, Howie, it's such a frustrating like spaghetti bowl of thoughts in my head. That world is really tangled up right now. If I got to be 100% honest with you, I want to be me. I want to be there as a beacon if people consider me that. But honestly, I have a very ugly, not very ugly, I don't mean it that way, but life is ugly. I have a very organic, human, personal life that I struggle with on my own, and I have my own stuff to deal with, and I don't mind sharing. But boy, I feel like I've accumulated, a lot of neediness in the DMs, you know?
Yeah, and there's this issue of like, if I curate my life to look perfect, which
Yes.
is a pastime of people these days.
Right.
I'm lying. When I reveal my flaws, I get praised for being courageous,
Right.
which feels almost as bad.
Yeah.
It's like, because now I know how to get people to, let me performatively be vulnerable for people.
Right. Oh God, yes. Let me take a big, ugly, fat boy, fat titty shirt, shirtless fat pic, and post it, and with post-it notes on the mirror talking about all these whatever, blah blah. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was, again, reading Sand Talk at the very beginning. He says, like, you need to know who I am, or you think you do. And, Mike, I am not a success story. Which
Yes.
I just thought was so refreshing. Like, I'm a man child. I basically have the responsibilities of a 14-year-old in my own culture. I've left a mess behind me. I'm just beginning to learn how to be a grown up. Like, do not.
Yep.
And he could easily have become like the Four Agreements, like some sort of wise indigenous guru, and he could have people paying thousands of dollars to sit at his feet or to take his courses. And he's like, no, like that's Western civilization corroding a true message.
Yes, exactly. I don't want to package myself like that's what's been very frustrating, is I've accidentally sort of backed into packaging myself as a success story, I think, when I'm anything but. I've just lost a lot of weight. I've been quasi successful in that realm, I've lost a big, huge chunk of weight, but it's not like I have fucking, excuse my French, but it's not like I've absolutely licked food addiction. It's not like I don't have moments in my life. It's not like I didn't eat like crap while my grandpa was dying. It's not like I don't get sad and eat my feelings. Those types of things still happen, and you can't, yeah, it gets tiring to, like, I don't want to share too much. I don't want to, and then I also don't want to share a thing and then let it be accidentally somebody else's excuse. Well, I saw Josh post on Instagram where he ate some Oreos. Well, he eats Oreos. And it's like, no, yeah. And you get caught in this whirlwind of what should I share? What shouldn't I share? And it gets very frustrating when you feel like a contradiction to yourself all the time in your own brain. But the enduring thing is, the quote unquote results that have stuck around in my life, and that makes me feel confident that I have a good system, and I don't mind sharing it. I don't mind sharing myself, and like what we talked, like, not that I think of myself even remotely like him, but I like how he does his social media, which is David Goggins, how it's like, I've learned a lot through all the suffering that I've done. I don't feel like that knowledge belongs to me. So I want to share. And I don't necessarily want to like fence about it, like do like some sort of word fencing, or in the DMs about, I as arrogant as it might sound, I feel like I can't handle those things. I want to be me and do me and show as an example of what's possible, because I'm proud of where I've come from, right? And I feel like that is as much as that's how I help the most. Not necessarily by getting into the nitty-gritty with every single person who has a question, because I am a volatile C- student who did get in fights from time to time at school, who is a little mouthy with the teachers. And so I am that person. So I am going to inevitably, and it's part of my character, and I like it about myself, to be honest, because I feel like I'm no nonsense, and I don't mind saying what needs to be said. And but at the same time, that gets volatile at times, and I want to try and avoid having so many questions in my life that I get frustrated. I would really much rather just share what I do, and then and try my best to help introduce people to you through our book. That's honestly, I feel like, is a new mission in my life, because more people need to know Howard.
Aw.
Bullshit aside, like, you've been a third rail for me in my life, bro. Whatever that means. I don't even know if I'm using that analogy right. You keep me grounded. You help provide a lot of the energy that makes me want to be a better person, not just a better runner, not just fit and, not fat, but like actually a better person. Not just not say the N-word, but be an anti-racist, actively going to offense against the behavior. That's scary. But you make me want to be that, and that's important. And so connecting people to my book, connecting people to me, connects people to that, connects people to you. And that's probably my best way I can help people in this world, is introduce them to my friend Howard.
Oh, well, I'm very touched, and I can talk about all the ways in which you have stabilized me these
years.
But you're not
gonna do all that.
Yeah. Well, but it's but for the larger issue. Like, for a while, we were confused about what we were doing, who was doing what our goal was, what we're trying to accomplish, how big we want to get, how much of an impact, how we're going to go about that impact. And I think we're both landing on, like, the truth of who each of us is and what we do and what we like doing. And again, that's surrender. Like, it's not surrender to the slog, but surrender to the true nature of who I am and what my gift is. That, like, we live in a world now where you can't do anything on your own. We have, like, for the past 8 months, we have all felt more alone than ever. And it really makes me recognize the power of community, of team, of something larger. And I'm thinking, like almost everybody I know who's still struggling with their eating, with their weight. And I talk to people who, despite my brilliant coaching, are struggling on a weekly basis. It's because they are the unit of change individually by themselves, as opposed to being embedded in a natural system.
Yes. And that's the case with so many people, because we're all fish out of water, trying to swim in thin air, and we can mimic it, we can figure it out. But yeah, even me, even you, even all of us, it's impossible to live the natural human existence. And as a sportsman, that's what I want to drive to do. Like, as a Louisiana sportsman, I want to be just like the fish in the water and the deer in the woods and the alligators in the swamp. I want to be an animal. I want to be a Louisiana animal. You know what I mean? That's me, bro. And I've never been more proud when you said, oh, you said that I was very Aboriginal, right? And I understand what you meant by that now. And I am flattered, because that's exactly what I want to be. I am, yeah, I'm Chagday Aboriginal, bro. Like I'm out the mud, dude. I'm from this. I'm from this. I'm from here. I'm from this thing and this place, this thing, this land, the truth, the nature around me has taught me so much, you know? And I feel more connected to that universe than I ever have before in my life through a desire to be that natural human, even though it's almost impossible, right? Just drawing and pulling towards it, and the compassion and empathy that comes with that natural state of humanness, uh, has made me a better person, man.
That's there's truth there, right? There's truth in nature that is more reliable than our culture.
Yeah, and I think honestly, Howie, just as a country person, as country folk myself, I feel like, you know, when you're in a really simple environment, you don't have any reason to trust what seems logically true. You know, like you in the woods, you see a small ditch. It's likely a small ditch. It's likely not, you know, it's likely not a bottomless pit, you know, or some weird thing. You can trust the information around you when you're in these very simple country folk settings. When you're in the woods a lot, when you're on the water a lot, the the processing is, you can trust your brain and your logic and your intuition because you're in what we're of, nature, right? And I think people who are used to those geographical environments, used to being in those very simple settings, often can be exploited by presenting what seems like simple answers that are complete bullshit. Because that the mind that's formed in the woods, in the rural sort of locales, I think, is used to simple answers, and if a simple answer is provided, it's trusted at a rate that might be much less than a more cynical and, you know, arguably just as pragmatic, but more cynical and distrusting sort of city folk that are looking to vet things more, right? I don't know. I just feel like there's something about being from the country that kind of sets us up, even though we're just as smart, if not smarter than everyone else, but being from the country and trusting things that we see with our eyes, uh, without needing to vet them or dig down. So let me see inside of here if this is actually a tree. Let me look at these cells right quick. And like, I don't know what I'm trying to say other than, like, I feel like
Well, it's like when the Europeans the Europeans came to North America, and the indigenous people had no defenses against pathogens.
Right.
Right, like misinformation, lying is a pathogen.
Yes.
And if you live in a world, if you come from a world in which what you know what it looks like is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's like that movie, the Ricky Gervais movie, The Invention of Lying. Like, this one guy figures out it's possible to lie, and everyone believes him because they have no experience of a lie. So whatever anybody says has to be true.
Yes, and that's what I think happens in rural in a lot like places like where I'm from.
Got any other words or thoughts before we close out this one?
No, I hope it's a useful conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you again. Enjoyed being on the podcast again, and looking forward to doing more. To be honest, now I feel better about my role in what we do, you know, and I'm just excited to go forward, having let 2020 be how we always say, turn bad data into a good day. Well, we got a whole freaking calendar year worth of that, so that's what we're doing. It'll make us stronger, and looking forward to it.
All right, man. Josh, thank you so much for
Thank you, Howie,
being my buddy, for agreeing to get on the horn and go places where we don't know in advance where we want to go. And so I hope there's some nuggets here that are helpful for people. Even I think as we are clearly struggling to figure a whole bunch of very fundamental things out about life and our place and our contribution. So
and I think if we persistently honest about that itself is a bit endearing, and it keeps both of us sane, because we don't feel like we're fun, you know?
Yeah, right. Yes, there's something about honesty that is like a palate cleanser.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, oh, this actually feels good to tell the truth.
Thank you. Exactly. Somebody needs to send a memo to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on.
Oh God. Yeah, and half of the houses on my street too.
Well, I heard that. Anyway.
All right, man. Have a good day.
All right, brother. Peace, man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope the rain pouring down on my roof wasn't too annoying a soundscape in the background. If you want to follow the links for what we talked about, you can check them out at the show notes for today's show, which is plantyourself.com/440. 440. What a run it's been and it's being. So, speaking of run, what's the running news? The running news is I find that I can run with a knee brace on. So I put it on and go run, and I'm going slow and taking it easy, but definitely, I don't know if I'm recovering, but I'm certainly not making it worse. In garden news, there's no garden news. The garden is just sort of sitting there. We're getting frost, so we're covering up whatever little greens are growing. We've seen groundhogs. So I don't know what the groundhog's eating because there's not much in the garden, but sure as looks awfully cute. And there's a lot of squirrels with whom we're sharing the pecans from the pecan tree, which suffered a very hard summer. I guess it rained so much, or maybe it's getting old. A lot of the top branches, the sucker branches going straight up, broke off. And I'm not sure if it's going to survive this year. So we may need to plant some new pecan trees to make up for it. All right, time for thanks. Thanks to Will Ridenauer for allowing me to use his beautiful song Sabali Dawn, the Dance of Peace. You can find more of Will's music at his website, willridenauer.com. And of course, thanks to all of you Plant Yourself podcast patrons. Kim Harrison, Lynn McClellan, Brittany Porter, Dominic Maurer, Barbara Whitney, Tammy Black, Amy Good, Amanda Hatterley, Mary Jane Wheeler, Ellen Kennelly, Melissa Cobb, Rachel Behrens, Tina Scharf, Tina Ahern, Jen Filkinovsky, David Bizek, The Mysterious Michelle X, Elsbeth Feldman, Leah Stoller, Alan Christensen, Colleen Peck, Michelle Landry, Josina, Sarah Durkis, Kelly Cameron, Janet Selby, Claire Adams, Tom Franzek, Jeanette Benham, Gila Cert, David Donahue, Blair Cyber, Dorona Vizov, Gio and Carolyn Argentati, Jody Friesner, Misha Rosen, Michael Warbeck, Aviva Lael, Alicia Lemus, Val Linneman, Nick Harper, Bandana Chawley, Molly Levine, The Inscrutable Harry R., Susan Laverty, The Panda Vegan, Craig Kovic, Adam Scharf, Karen Burry, Heather Morgan, Nigel Davies, Marion Blum, Teresa Copel, Julian Watkins, Breed O'Connell, Sharon Hirschman, Linda Ayad, Holm Hedegaard, Isa Tuzinwa, Connie Hainline, Aaron Greer, Alicia Davis, Heather O'Connor, Carolyn Jensen, Sherry Olakoski of Plant Powered for Health, Karen Smith, Scott Marani, Karen and Joe Crabtree, Kirby Burton, Teresa Carell, Kevin McCauley, Elizabeth Rothschild, Ann Jesse, Cheryl Dwyer, Jenny Hazelton, Peter W. Evans, Dennis Bird, Darby Kelly, Lori Fanny, Linnea Lundquist, Emily Iconelli, Levy Wallach, Rosamund McAtee, Dan Picorni, Stephen Leenan, Patty DiMartino, Mike and Donna Kartz, Deanne Bishop, Bilberry Elf, Marjorie Lewis, Tricia Adams, Nancy Sheldon, Lindsay Bayshore, Gunmarie Hagan, Tracy Gullidge, Laura Heaton, Meg from Mama Says, Stacey Stokes, Ben Savage, Michael Kay, David Hughes, Connie Rogers, Claire England, Sally Robertson, Paranganchi, Amy Daly, Brian Tourville, Mark Jeffrey Johnson, Josie Dempsey, Karen Schmidt, Pamela Hayden, Emily Perryman, Allison Corbett, Richard Stone, Lauren Vaught of Edible Musings, Aaron Hasty, Sean Owen, Sagar Naik, Erica Piedra, Danielle Roberts, Michael Lushton, Sarah Johnson, Catherine Floyd, for your generous support of the podcast. That's it for now. As always, be well, my friends.